Ted, do you believe you have a soul?
What did you think I would do at this moment when you're standing before me with tears in your eyes? That answer your question?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fanzone Debate. We're here for an interesting match. I say interesting because I think these are two players that bring interesting fights, interesting debates to the table. We got Brooklyn Vail going up against Adelaide Spence. We've seen both of them already this season. Adelaide beating Richard Schwartz to earn their place here today. Brooklyn taking on Jack Pinchuk and winning that fight. So I'm looking forward to this. They both had strong showings in their first match of the season. They're moving their way on in this title picture, and whoever wins this match will earn a contender match. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. Kirk, how are you, sir? What do you think of this matchup?
I'm doing okay. I apologize. I'm having some technical difficulties here, so I got to be on my phone. So if there's any lag or any issues, that's on me. No, I'm excited for this match. I think Brooklyn and Spence are both very thoughtful debaters. I think they both put a lot of work into this. They both come up with some really good ideas. So I believe this is the first time they've ever played each other, right?
I think so. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Second time being told backstage.
Okay, yeah, but I think it's a really good matchup because I like the way, like I said, I think there's a lot of thoughtfulness between what both those do. So I'm excited to see what they come up with and how those ideas clash.
Yeah, Mark, how are you doing? And what do you think?
Well, I'm doing good. I think we're in for a good match. Spence is one of those competitors I think that's been kind of just getting steadily better and better kind of as they've been getting more acquainted with the game, and has been you're also just never really sure what's going to happen, and I like that element of randomness to a match where Brooklyn is somebody who's been here for a while, and the last couple of matches, especially the last one, things are kind of finally starting to, fall his way. And I'm curious, like both are kind of on an upswing, and I'm curious to see, what ends up shaking out here today.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into it. This is how it is going. Literally the exact same three judges. They said, whoopsies, sorry. All right, so we'll get into it. This is how it's going to work. The players drafted categories. We are going to give them questions based on those categories, and they're going to debate them before our very souls. So they will each get a 1-minute opening, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing at the end of the debate. Mark, Kirk, and I will write on our boards who we thought won the debate. 2 out of 3 votes wins you a point. First player to 3 points wins the match. Competitors, any questions as we kick this one off? Nothing. Great. Good luck. Let's get into it. Ted Season 2 now streaming on Peacock. All right, we are going to kick this off with the first question, which was drafted by, I want to say Spence. I'm going to say Spence. The category is rom-coms, romantic comedies. Your question is, which couple from a pre-1980s rom-com would be the most fun to have a dinner with? Adelaide, because you drafted this, you're going to go first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
If we're breaking down, why are you going to go out to dinner with somebody? I think it's very clear, the goals you need to hit. Good conversation, and they got money, so you can go to a nice restaurant. And also they have, very refined taste. That's why I'm going to pick Don and Kathy in Singing in the Rain. Starting already with Don Lockwood, a very prestigious actor, world-renowned, famous. Dude has the big bucks. If he invited you to dinner, he's a good odd. He's a good chance he's paying for it, and I would love to get some lobster and caviar covered, as well as Kathy. I think someone that we can all like very much relate to. She's a fan of cinema. She grew up like obsessing over movies, wanting to be an actress one day. I feel like we could talk for hours about our love of classic cinema, as well as I think just like their back and forth, the way that they talk with each other. There's this very like tit-a-tat kind of like back and forth that they have. It never really feels aggressive or harsh, but feels very welcoming. Like you want to be with them at all times, and why not hang out for 2 hours, eat and drink a little.
Time. All right, let's move over to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
There's really only one answer to this question, and it is Walter Burns and Hildy Johnson from His Girl Friday. Most fun to have dinner with. I want to laugh my ass off. I went to dinner with Bill Carriola once, and he made me laugh my ass off the entire time, and that's what makes a great guest. You would not get a word in with these guys because they are just intellectually ferocious. Banter with them is a game, and you would remember this dinner for the rest of your life. The chemistry is combustible. Watching them just kind of tackle each other in person would be so thrilling and fascinating, and you would definitely want to have dinner with them because it would be so entertaining to have them be around. And they're also great. They're great individually. They don't have to rely on the other person or potentially other people and the other argument. But I will bring that in with Freeform.
Okay, great. All right, players, we will move on to the 5-minute freeform. I will throw up the 1 minute warning when the time comes. If you are talking over your opponent, I will throw up the let your opponent talk. Don't do that. It makes me sad. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
I think you made a very interesting choice. I don't know the last time that you watched His Girl Friday, but there is literally a scene where Walter and Hildy go out to lunch or dinner or something with Hildy's fiance. Do you remember that scene?
Yes.
Great. Because imagine that you are in Bruce's shoes, right? If you are in there in this scene as you are in this theoretical question. They don't talk to you. All that Walter does is like, man, Hildy, remember when we like fucked at Niagara Falls? Remember this like crazy case that we did? You're not having dinner with them. You are basically watching a show. There is no back and forth. There is not like you're not holding a conversation. You're witnessing two interesting people who think that you are basically just like wall dressing.
But he does talk to them whenever Hildy leaves. Walter and Bruce talk about how when Walter passes on, he wants to give his funds to Hildy, and really kind of asking Bruce's permission if that's okay. So that's where I come out with the individuality is that you can have one of them one-on-one, and it's still a great conversation. The beat doesn't go down. My argument with Don and Kathy is that you need Cosmo there. You need Cosmo there to get the best out of Don, because without Don, he's really just kind of flat, and you need the three of them to get the max out of it. You look at like Good Morning, that's the big song from them. It needs all three of them. Make them laugh. That's all about Cosmo. It's playful. It's not chaotic. It's going to be boring. You're probably not going to be the focus because everybody's going to be bombarding Don and Kathy to get their 15 seconds of fame with them.
I don't know how suddenly, just because the musical numbers require a third part of the triplet, that suddenly the dialogue is then somehow like undermined. They are really great. Don Luck was literally the lead of the film. The reason that we come back to it and we love it is because of Gene Kelly and the charisma and the relationship it has with every single character. And you even see like when they meet, Cosmo is not present. He calls him a cab, and then he's just fucking gone. And it's just him and Kathy driving around, and their first connection is really magical. You can see this budding romance and even like a rivalry a little bit that is so engaging that you are locked in. Cosmo is not any part of that fucking scene. There is evidence that there is a connection beyond the third wheel, and I think it does really work. But your argument is predicated on, oh, it's great when they're apart. If you were asking for dinner with the couple, it shouldn't be, okay, I can get a word in. Hey, you go fuck off, powder your nose or whatever. I would talk to Walter first. That's not a conducive argument. You were asking for individual dinners, and you're having it like a sitcom scene. We're like, oh no, I need to go to 2 proms at the same time. What do I do? Otherwise, it's a bad dinner.
I am not using that you need them individually. I am saying that if one of them happens to run off to the bathroom, is that the individual moments can be enjoyed just as well with their togetherness. That just like them being in the movie together, they are at their best. And also, Walter is legitimately funny. When you go into that first clip of the scene, or the movie rather, when he's trying to figure out who Bruce is, and he's fixated on this old man, and then he brushes him off as to be like, oh, I didn't like this, wasn't my intention in the first place, you go away. That is genuinely hilarious. You don't get any of that with Don and Kathy. You need that with Don and Cosmo, because they're like the buddies. Don and Kathy, they're going to turn this dinner into themselves, and it's just going to be like raw cinema this, raw cinema that. Whereas with Walter and Hildy, you got to talk about life. You got to talk about journalism and whatnot. It's not just about movies. You got to have a more fleshed out conversation.
I think, okay, just knowing who we are as people, I think talking about cinema being a negative is fucking ridiculous. But no,
but just cinema,
the whole point of the movie, the plot of the movie is Walter and Hildy being so fucking obsessed with journalism that she leaves her fiance so she can go back and fuck her boss again. They broke up initially for a reason. They argue. They do not like each other. You're going to be witness to fucking Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf 2.0. They're going to eventually hate each other again, and you are witnessing that downfall because they're a bad couple and they're bad coworkers, and all they care about is work. And you're just watching that for however long you're eating with them.
But you inevitably get that, like at the end of the movie, Hildy does choose Walter. She uses this last thing of journalism as like he's just doing this to kind of get back. And the whole thing of like Bruce being in the conversation, like we're not marrying Walter or Hildy. We're literally just being guests, and it's going to be fucking entertaining.
Time. Okay. We are going to start closings with Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you're going to start us off. 1 minute when you start talking.
Walter and Hildy work so well as a dinner couple because they create momentum. You are never going to forget this dinner that you have because of the conversations that you have throughout this movie. Like I said earlier, their banter is like sport. They are intellectually trying to one up each other, and they want you to be involved in it. I know my opponent tried to say that that a previous guest had no consideration at all when they had dinner, but they do have thought for him at the time. With Don and Kathy, it's going to be boring. It's going to be bland. Like, yeah, sure, they're going to pay for the dinner, but that becomes off as like selfish from your own self, because like it doesn't really matter who's paying for the dinner. It's about the overall experience. Don and Kathy are going to be so bombarded by everybody else that you're not going to be able to enjoy that intimate moment that dinner should be.
Time. Okay. Let's go over to Adelaide. Adelaide, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
At the end of the day, Brooklyn is arguing for a couple that have already broken up. They have their issues, and they're not really resolved within the movie. She just decides, I actually don't like my fiance. I'd rather fuck my boss, who I work with. And that's her real motivator, is her obsession with work. And that's their thing. All they do is talk about with work. I actually have a number here. The script for this movie is 191 pages long, and it is 92 minutes. They're speaking double the rate that they are expected to because they will not shut the fuck up. They keep talking. You won't have a conversation with them. You will be witnessing their conversation. That's not a really back and forth experience. I think that Don and Kathy have a really great back and forth, and they're very welcoming. Like Brooklyn said, they have Cosmo as part of like the third of their relationship. He does really contribute, and they want to bring you into that. They invited you out for dinner, and oh no, someone's paying for my dinner. That's still a wonderful experience going out to a nice restaurant. And we're not talking about, like, you go to a nice restaurant, don't be like attacking them, be like, oh, gonna get a bitch dinner. No, you're there to talk with them. They're talking with you. You're having a great time. And also, dinner is paid for. That's fucking great.
All right. Let's bring in the judges. Where's my marker? I did one of these last night.
Here, you could have mine.
Aha! It was hiding. Okay. Kirk, Mark, you guys ready?
Oh,
Good
Yes, sir.
first fight. I don't want to jinx it. I'm gonna knock on wood a little bit, but we've gotten very lucky this season. We've had a lot of really good opening fights, a lot of good tone setters. I've enjoyed this one as well. I thought this was a good start. It wasn't until about halfway through that I had realized I have seen His Girl Friday. And I saw it like maybe a year ago, and I liked it a lot. And then once I had that in my brain, it helped a lot with contextualizing what Brooklyn was throwing down. And I love singing in the rain. I thought this was really good, though. I thought both did a good job of kind of building up their characters and why it would be entertaining. Spence and fun. Spence took it from a listen, dinner's paid. These are celebrities. Like, you're getting the star treatment type of thing, where Brooklyn attacked it kind of from a who wants to laugh and have a good time. And so I thought both convinced me that the dinners would be fun. It was kind of why would the attacks on the other. And I went with Brooklyn. I thought that Brooklyn convinced me that at the end of the day, it might be fun at first to be like, ooh, I'm here with celebrities, but it might just get shallow talking about the same things over and over again, being ignored because of the celebrity status. And I thought that Adelaide, their attacks against His Girl Friday, just being like, they don't even really like each other, blah, blah, blah. I just didn't totally buy into it. And I didn't feel like it did enough to take away from Brooklyn's positive aspects of it. So I went with Brooklyn. Kirk, you're an expert in these films. Yes. Tell me, what do you think?
Well, they both picked movies that are considered all-time classics that I think are kind of overrated. So that we were equal there. But so that was a wash. I started out taking copious notes because they were both throwing out a lot of information, a lot of good arguments. About halfway through, I just kind of stopped doing that and sat back and tried to just pick up on the vibe of which one of these dinners I would want to sit down at. And it was hard right up to the final of regulation because they were both coming up with really good points. And I was really, I needed something in closing to get me over the edge one way or the other. Ultimately, one person did that for me. I hope you can see this. I went with Spence. What Spence hit me with in the closing was that, just reiterating the way they talk to each other and how to talk. The point about the length of the script versus the length of the movie is real. And I think that is something that would get grating after a while if you're sitting with them and eating it. Also, I really like Brooklyn's point about other celebrities going to be bombarded, but Spence kind of shut that down in their closing with, this is going to be the kind of place where, people they're going to take you somewhere where people don't do that. So I think that Brooklyn's argument was good, but I think Spence did a really good job of countering that. So what was Spence?
Mark, I can see you're so pleased. Please decide this one for us.
Kind of good on you. Good on both of you for having seen some of these. I hadn't seen any of these. But yeah,
You haven't seen Singing in the Rain?
No. Listen, I think Kirk was on to something there. It did come to all about vibes, ultimately, because this is a vibes-based question, and I feel like based off of that, I did go with Spence. I feel like at the end of the day, what got me is the idea of possibly being at dinner with a couple that doesn't really like each other sounds horrible. And I don't really, I want no part of that. And again, I do agree with Kirk. Kind of a lot of things that Brooklyn was bringing in. I think Spence did a good job of shutting them down. And I just ultimately, I think Spence was pitching a slightly better time.
All right, sounds good. Spence wins the first point. We're moving on to the next question. It is going to be in the category of directors. Your question is, who is the best character in a Rob Reiner film? Brooklyn, we will start with you because you drafted this. You have 1 minute when you start talking. But you got to start over because you're muted.
The judges want answers. They are entitled to them. Adelaide wants answers. They want the truth. They can't handle the truth. It is Colonel Nathan Jessup, played by Jack Nicholson from A Few Good Men, that is the best character in a Rob Reiner film, and it's not even close. He is an ideology. He has a very complex moral dilemma behind him, as he is the colonel of this unit in Guantanamo Bay. He has a soldier that has fallen out of line, and what is the best way to handle it? And he spends the entire movie going on these ego trips, going on these power trips that make him think that he is a nice guy and initially, but then goes to gross, sometimes just psychological sort of power moves coming on the end of some scenes. The last thing I'll say, the last 15 minutes of this movie is incredible. He is the final boss of this court case, and it's just electric every time you watch it.
Time. Okay. We will bring in Adelaide. Adelaide, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
We should give Stephen King a crystal ball, because I think somehow, somewhere in his coke-addled brain, he was able to perfectly predict the future of Marvel fans and the Last Jedi haters with Annie Wilkes in Misery. He was able to create such a perfect microcosm of beyond just toxicity within fandom, which again is just kind of pejorative. But I think Kathy Bates, as well, like someone who did untouched rewrites of the script, or uncredited rewrites of the script, was able to fully understand and do a deep dive into what a psychopath truly acts like. She's able to perfectly hone the drastic differences of this very naive and childish girl who is just obsessed with the Misery novels, and this truly unhinged, terrifying woman who will literally do anything she needs to get what she wants. And that is just perfection.
Hey, I've seen both these movies again. Wow, look at me go. All right, 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
So the thing that I will say about Annie Wilkes is that it's too broken up. There isn't a moment where she is both that loving, caring nurse that we see initially and psychopathic in kind of just like one take. It's very chopped up, and the battle that she has with James Caan is not good, because in the movie you're more focused on him trying to get out. Her thing story-wise is pretty simple. I have this beloved author, I'm keeping him hostage, and they literally cripple him at the beginning of the movie and throughout entirety to kind of keep it at balance. You're more enticed to follow him, whereas with Colonel Nathan Jessup, the limited screen time that he has is incredible. Whether it's whenever Tom Cruise and Demi Moore meet him in Guantanamo Bay, and he gives a speech about like how it's so great to have a woman in power, and then does this thing about wanting to blow one, but like not until a woman is president. It's gross, and it's a way for him to command the screen presence that he has so little time for.
I just don't understand your argument. Like, I don't understand how him saying shitty things somehow makes him a good character. I think he's kind of one note. It's just, ooh, I'm a gruff military guy who hates women, and he says fucking slurs for no reason. And then, oh, I need to keep my soldiers in line, so yeah, I'll kill one of them to benefit the rest. And that's a lot of kind of like archetypes that we've seen in like big military generals we've seen in the past. I don't think he's really groundbreaking. I think you are, the way that you process Annie Wilkes, you're saying nurse to psychopath. I think nurse is the middle ground. The broad naivete that she like kind of presents it. She is very childish in the way that she approaches Misery as a character. She doesn't curse. She has this very childlike perception of the world that she approaches Paul Sheldon with. I think that's what makes the character so rich. And then the actual nursing of it, as Paul learns that she was like discharged from the hospital because of her history with the babies. That is that transition point. That's what fully rounds out the character, and you're able to see the full connection between innocent and terrifying, and that's what makes her so great.
But there really is no connection between innocent and terrifying because from the beginning, she's like, oh yeah, I never called Paul Sheldon, or I never called like any of his friends or family, whatever. Where like in the script, she's given such an advantage that you kind of just wait for the end of the movie to happen for there to be really sort of any intellectual battle with Nathan Jessup. He himself says that he is in the business of saving lives, and what he has to do may not necessarily be the most popular choice, but ultimately what he does, he thinks that he is helping the greater good. There's an incredible line near the ending of it, or near the beginning of the movie rather, that really helps solidify when he's meeting with Markinson, and it says, we go back a while, we went to the academy together, we were commissioned together, goes on about that, and then it's like, now if it's a source of tension or embarrassment for your will, I don't give a shit. You get that nice turn in one take. We're in the business saving lives, don't ever question my orders in front of another officer. On top of like that incredible monologue at the end where he's basically calling out Kathy and the rest of the defense counsel, being like, do you think you do a better job? Cool, grab a gun.
The scene that you're looking for is very early on in the movie, where Paul is telling her about his writing process, and he lets slip a shit, and she screams and shouts at him, and then spills soup on him. Just immediately that flip, and then she immediately goes, "Oh shit, I need to be a normal person," and she apologizes and says, like, "Oh, I don't know how to do that. Hey, Paul, I love you." Like, that is not it's in how Bates gives the performance. You can see her brain working through every kind of emotional reaction and counteraction and everything. The process that she has to go through there is the character. It is fully understanding the true psychopath who's living inside and how to present it. And I think that is what Jessup is missing. He doesn't have that second layer. He is constantly brash. He is constantly a dickhead. And it's literally just within the script of him saying, "Oh, here's my intentions," versus, "I'm an asshole. I don't need to tell you anything." That's not great writing.
But they're separate cuts though. Those are director's notes being like, okay, now you got to be happy. Now you got to be pissed. There's never cohesiveness.
All right, let's start closings. We'll start with Adelaide. Adelaide, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Brooklyn is pitching Jessup as this very like tightly wound character who is always in control and then just lets loose. I don't really understand what he's arguing. But to me, what I see in the movie is a guy who is constantly just rude to people and there's not really a lot of depth there. And then at the pivotal scene, Kathy just kind of like pushes him a little bit. Just the slightest little nudge. And the dude just fucking snaps, starts shouting shit, and he's threatening Kathy in a fucking military court. That man is stupid. That is not smart. That's not interesting. That is not depth. Annie Wilkes is masterful writing. What King is able to do, and again, Bates as well with the rewrites, is
I lost Spence. Did everyone else lose Spence back there? Okay.
I think what Annie Wilkes is able to do as a character is have a fully well-rounded out character. With both King's original book and then Bates with the rewrites, Bates is able to fully conceptualize both the naivete of the childish wonderment that she has in the fandom obsession, and then the nurse in the middle and the terrible way that she treated the kids and why she got fired, and then the true unhinged, psychopathic unleashing on Paul Sheldon and kidnapping him is depth. It is extremely well-written character.
Time. Okay. All right. Let's move over to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Jessup isn't just this like cartoony villain. He is obsessed with hierarchy. He is deeply insecure about his status. That ending bit where Spence was going on about like, yeah, he like Kathy Kathy just kind of pokes at him, and he unravels. You watch that unraveling start from the beginning of the movie when he meets with Marcuson and Kendricks, and Spencer saying that Jessup is addicted to everybody. He loves the people who obey his orders. That's why Kendrick likes him so much, or like Kendrick and him get along so well. But you see it through every time that he meets with the defense counsel in particular. They slowly just crack at him when you get to that final conflict, and you get to that moment of like, we have a duty to protect. We stand on a wall. Whereas with Kathy Bates, it's not well written. It's sporadic, and there isn't an intellectual depth like there is with mine.
Okay, bring in the judges. My phone. All right. Kirk, Mark, you guys good? Kirk is muted, but I think I saw him put a marker down, so I think he's okay. Mark, we're gonna start with you.
Good.
Solid round. I think both did a solid job of pitching your character. I mean, I'm honest, both are very good characters. So good on that. I think ultimately, and I think would end up swaying me to think that it's kind of the closing. I ultimately went with who I feel like pitched. I think there's more to this character. There's kind of more kind of depth to him, and I feel like Spence was able to do that at least the best here. I like what Brooklyn was going for with Jessup. I don't think I don't think he got to a point where I don't think he really sold me 100% on there's something deeper going on with Jessup. And I feel like kind of Spence kind of poked at that the entire round, and then decent job of kind of breaking and also on the opposite when Annie Wilkes is brought in, that I feel like at the end there's more going on with that character and just kind of more to be explored.
Okay. I also thought this was good. I also went with Spence. I agree with Mark. I liked what Brooklyn was throwing down for Jessup. I actually prefer that character, having only seen each movie once. But I think, what Mark said, like, Spence just kind of convinced me of why Annie, there's a little bit more going on there, and the character that Brooklyn, I don't want to say failed to say there was more going on there. Like, I think he was digging at it, but I don't think he totally got there. And I think that Spence did a good job of kind of taking that one down, of talking about why it was maybe not the best written character, or maybe just like there were moments where like there's just some weird choices made with the character overall. So I went with Spence. Kirk, are we cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs?
No, I also went with Adelaide. I love this question because I love questions when there's just so many great answers to pull from, and it can just be anything. I think they both picked great characters. I just think it came down to Spence gave us a little bit more, and I think Spence really did a good job of handling Brooklyn's attacks, where Brooklyn was talking about the lack of cohesion, the choppiness. I think Spence gave specific answers, specific scenes where you see exactly what Brooklyn was claiming wasn't there. On the other end, I just feel like that I think Brooklyn showed us why Jessup is a good villain. I don't think he gave us as much of the character. And he mentioned himself that there's a limited screen time. I don't think that necessarily makes him a weaker character. It means he can't be the better character. I just think that Brooklyn had a little less in his toolbox to work with, and that showed during the debate.
Okay. So Adelaide is up 2-0. Brooklyn needs to hit this in order to send it to the bonus. The question was in the category of horror. The question is, what is the best scene in a Mike Flanagan horror film? Ooh, spooky. Adelaide, you will kick us off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
To set the scene, this is in Dr. Sleep. Rose the Hat is kind of like meditating as she's trying to access Abra's memories, the kid that Danny is working with. And the way that the scene progresses is that as she kind of like centers herself and goes to find Abra, you see Rose basically ascending over the entire planet Earth and is coasting over it as this all-powerful horror deity. And then as she lands in Abra's room and starts sorting through her memory files, basically, Abra seizes control and smashes her fingers and fucks her up and truly destroys a woman who we are introduced to as all-powerful. That is an incredible staked introduction. It is like we already know who these characters are, but now we are seeing how powerful Abra truly is. And this lays the groundwork for not only Rose's obsession with her and controlling her and adding her to her cult, but also I think the future of film. I'll get into that more in the back and forth
time. Okay. Let's move over to Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
I did again. I know. I'm sorry. So I also went with Dr. Sleep, and I went with the baseball boy scene, the murder of Bradley Trevor, who is fantastically played by Jacob Tremblay. First time I watched this, I got to him being kidnapped, and I had to turn it off because dad mode came in, and I was like, this is scary. This could happen to anybody. But it's the progression of the scene and the real life screams that you get from him throughout this as they pin him down. They slowly torture him to the brink of death, literally just to get this steam out of him. Inverse, you have Abra discovering what's going on, her being mortified by it, her also just really nailing this whole like kid having like just a rough nightmare, and in particular a nightmare like her one of her best friends dying. And my scene also has the best use of the True Knot and their campiness, and in particular Rose the Hat, but I'll get to that in free time.
Awesome. All right, double Dr. Sleepage, 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
I think the big downside of the year scene out, and I will say it is a great scene, but there are so many other films in the broader scope of horror, other scenes that do exactly what your scene is doing. Yes, it's effective. At the end of the day, it is people just killing somebody. I think there isn't a lot of depth to it. It is just a good version of something you can get everywhere else. There is nothing like my scene. It is transcending the genre of horror and does something truly unique and magnificent. And on top of that, it is really magical and it stands out and it feels important. Yours is a good scene in a good movie, but you kind of forget about it and it's like, oh yeah, a lot of movies have kills like this and it's just fine and you move on.
My scene is sold on Jacob Tremblay's pain and screams throughout the movie, as well as just the progressive torture that he gets in. When Rose has him pinned down, he's like, "Are you going to hurt me?" And she's like, "Yeah." And that's literally the best part of her, because Rose is in both of our scenes. Rose is not a great character. I think she has performed horribly, and yours relies solely on her. You mentioned that my thing is used in other movies. The whole thing with her traveling Earth, Interstellar doesn't do that. Superheroes have never soared through the air. The CGI, I don't know if it transcribes.
The category is literally horror. I was talking about it in a horror context.
Television is like the CGI is rough. You can tell very hard that she is on green screen, and even the lighting doesn't make sense because it still has the lighting off of the side from the van. It's not realistic that she ultimately deserves in that.
God forbid there's continuity and the projecting on the side from the van is the same thing as she's meditating when she's literally in the same fucking place. But I think the important part of what you're getting at is my scene is still really fucking great. I think that your scene sets up, again, like Abra is watching the kid dying, oh shit, and we are seeing how strong Rose is. The follow-up and the consequences of that scene directly lead into mine. And I think that inversion of your scene being like, oh shit, the villains are strong, that's wild. Immediately going into, no, this fucking kid who has no reason to be this strong, literally beyond the fact that she kicks Rose out of her brain. While Rose is in her brain, Abra then goes in fucking Rose's brain and digs through her memory files and smashes her fucking fingers and flips the room like fucking Prince walking on the ceilings and shit. It is insane. It is incredible.
Again, Inception does that whole building twirl thing better.
Not a horror movie.
Absolutely. No, Rose is not a good villain, to the point where she's like she's handled by this kid in seconds, and you can't say that like her flying over the earth is this like groundbreaking thing in horror. Even like the found footage one where it's I forget the name of the movie, but it's the kid that's like flying through, like people fly through stuff in horror. And whenever she gets blasted off, it took everything in me not to say Team Rocket is blasting off again, because of the way that she trembles and like that rough CGI that they use. She deserves so much better. Whereas with my scene, it is more fleshed out. It's more heartbreaking. A child is dying, and the child is dying a slow, torturous death, and you're watching this kid from a distance being broken down, and you see just the tremor and the screams as her parents come in. She's devastated. She cries out, my best friend is dead. It is an emotional gut punch that your scene just does not offer. It takes out everything from it.
You're saying that, because that she beats her so quickly that it kind of undermines everything. The reason that Tremblay's death is so slow because they're taking their time. They're like, they could kill him quickly. I don't think that works for your argument that they're just like, oh, I'm gonna like nibble a little bit. That's all that they're doing. They're sucking up really bad CGI steam, which if we're talking about looking fucking goofy, it's literally just fucking air and it looks bad. They're like sucking his shit out is not good CGI. Mine at least has something interesting going on. It's just your fucking white smoke. At the end of the day, I think that the consequences of your scene, you're saying like, oh, the tragedy of this kid dying. That's, at the end of the day, we're both arguing for emotion, and yours is just out. Yours is done, and yours is simple. I think mine, again, your scene sets up the consequences of my scene. The sadness and the heartache of yours is immediately upended by Abra fucking up the shit out of Rose, and that sets the plot of the whole movie in place.
Time. Sucking that kid's shit out. We are going to start with Brooklyn for closings. 5 minutes. Or no, 1 minute. Jesus.
5 minutes. Oh God, please, 5 minutes.
Brooklyn, sorry. 1 minute for your closing, Brooklyn. Go.
And another thing. So the question is not what is the most important scene in Doctor Sleep. It is the best scene. And Spence tries to talk about how like the death is just one and done. Stabs him in the leg, gets out the steam, and yes, the steam is campy because True Knot in itself is a campy sort of thing. So there is a nice balance there where like, yes, the steam has to come out. So we're going to handle it in this like semi erotic way, which really kind of adds to the creep factor in this, and that they're abducting this kid to get this thing that they romantically sort of flourish over. With Rose flying over the earth, it's not special for a character to fly over and then to. Like Spence talked about how it's such a great villain and what kind of power she has, but then that's completely vanished within 2 seconds with this girl accessing your memories and dismantling your hand. That's it.
All right, let's go over to Adelaide. Adelaide, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
I think part of being a great scene is beyond just, a good version of something that we've seen 1,000 times. I think what makes Rose flying over Earth and accessing Abra's memories so great is it sets the groundwork for exactly horror trends of the 2020s. I think the 2020s kind of like as a decade, the predominant, like the one word idea that we can put with it is maximalism. I think this and it catapulted the possibility of horror truly being universal, not literally like, oh, for everybody. It like the scope is the world. And I think this is the cataclysm. This is the center point of what we are looking at and what is possible. What Mike Flanagan was able to do is expand the language of horror cinema through Rose's ascension, through her accessing of Abra's memory box. And again, within the film, the tone and the weight of this terrifying villain that we set up being totally inverted, and the what she needs to do after is incredible and also just fucking scary.
Time. All right. Let's bring in the judges. Kirk, when you're ready, you may begin.
All right. I'll say they picked the right movie. Both picked the wrong scene. Best scene of this movie is Danny getting his AA chip. That being said, both good scenes, good arguments. But there's certain times during a debate where you're just sitting there and waiting, and if they say this, they're probably going to get my vote. And Brooklyn pulled that off. Brooklyn hit what he needed to, which was the fact that Rose getting beat so easily in that scene undermines so much, including his own scene, or including Spence, including Brooklyn's scene, which Spence admitted that everything that was accomplished in Brooklyn's scene is just upended because the character supposedly the underdog just wipes the floor with her immediately. I think that's a big problem with Spence's scene. I think Brooklyn also hit the CGI, which is an issue. And I think Brooklyn just painted a really good word picture of what his scene was with Tremblay and with Abra, and the two of them juxtaposed and experiencing that. The fact he hit the eroticism of the scene and how that really added to the whole thing of the adults doing this to a child. So I think Brooklyn just really painted gave me the much better. Like I said, he gave me a better description of the scene, while also poking enough holes in Spence's.
Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah. This is gonna be kind of funny. I'm going to Spence. For weirdly a bit of an opposite reason of Kirk. The arguments of is Rose a good villain was very much the kind of the tipping point for me. I guess where I kind of fell into this, I felt like it was really weird how both Spence and Brooklyn were using Rose as like, oh, this is the good thing in my scene. And a lot of Brooklyn's attacks on Spence's scene was like, but Rose is bad in like the whole movie. And I'm like, this is so weird. I'm like, I don't know if you can have it both ways. Like, and while at the same time, I do think Spence did a decent job of building up their scene. And I kind of felt thrown by a lot of what Brooklyn was bringing into the argument here, which why I ultimately went with Spence.
Okay. Well, that makes this fun for me. I'll just rip the Band-Aid off. I went with Brooklyn. And I got to be honest, Mark, I love you. I thought it wasn't really that close. No offense, Adelaide. I thought Brooklyn kind of manhandled this one. And here's why. At first, I see where Mark was coming from. Brooklyn jumped in with the Rose sucks. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, Rose is a big part of your scene. What are you doing? But I think Brooklyn actually, made a very good point of saying, in this scene, it rests on Tremblay, but also all of I forget what they're called. He said it. The group of people that Rose
It's
is in
the
charge.
True Knots.
True not.
Yes. And that they're a campy bunch. And in that scene, the campiness kind of works in favor of the scene. And I thought Brooklyn just totally decimated Adelaide's scene. Take away the that Rose is a bad villain part, but like the deconstructing the CGI, saying that it's totally a scene of something that we've seen before. That it just, that it makes Rose look like shit at that point in the movie, even if you believe she's a good villain at that point, which I do, Brooklyn. I think you're wrong on that front, but that I thought Brooklyn just totally kind of took Adelaide's scene and was like, yeah, your scene is like booty. And I thought Brooklyn, what Kirk said, painting the word picture, I thought was excellent. This didn't necessarily fall into my choice, but I also think about like what is memorable as far as this goes. And I've seen this movie twice, and Brooklyn's scene like stands out completely. And I think he reinforced that in my memory. And Adelaide wasn't really able to kind of like, I don't remember their scene at all. And their description of it didn't help. It sounded kind of okay, like the hand is broken. Like, why is this exciting? Why is this better than what Brooklyn is offering? So I went with Brooklyn. Mark, apologies. Anyway, we're gonna move into the final prep question. So once again, Brooklyn does need to hit this in order to send it to the bonus. The question was drafted in the category of actors and actresses, I believe. The question is, what is the best, I'm assuming, because I don't have it written there, what is the best performance by RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., in a film? Brooklyn, we're going to start with you. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Imagine this is Screen Junkies and we're doing the whole like the swap. It's now the worst. I'd be fucked. So you are Robert Downey Jr. Throughout the entirety of your career. You were doing these sharp, quick-witted, fast-talking people. Then Christopher Nolan hands you a script and is like, "We want you to play Louis Strauss. You do it so well that not only do you get nominated for Best Supporting Actor, you win." This is such against Robert Downey Jr.'s tendencies, and he nails it. This is the first time in years audiences saw him disappear into a non-charismatic, restrained role. There's no flashy lines. His performance is controlled, bitter, and calculating. There are two very different people with Louis Strauss in court, or when he's doing the hearing, versus Louis Strauss outside when he is talking with his councilman. There is a dramatic depth. There is a long character arc where in the third act, it just kind of completely flips. This performance highlights the rivalry between him and Robert Oppenheimer, a la Amadeus and Caligari.
Time. I've weirdly never heard that comparison, though I'm sure it's been made 1,000 times. That's pretty good. Adelaide, we're going to go to you next. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
I'm the dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. In one movie, Robert Downey Jr. gives us 3 entirely different performances, and somehow we're going to say that, because he won an Oscar for the other one, that simply being nominated for an Oscar for playing a black guy means less. I'm bringing it back. Shout out Jacoby. Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder is genuinely incredible. He's able to walk this fine line of fully committing to this dramatic character actor and being so deep into it. And he perfectly matches the tone of the comedy film that we are watching, and his whole commitment to this piece of shit Daniel Day-Lewis type like method actor, that everything he says is so fucking funny. And it's not just about like he's being given good lines. He's able to deep dive within the character and know the exact way a method actor would say it and lean on it in a way that we are still laughing as an audience. That's masterful.
Time. No one wanted to take the judge, I see. All right. 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
But it is in the script. It is in what Ben Stiller inevitably hands to him. It's not even necessarily about the performance. It's about the overall shock value. Your movie, this character cannot get done. It is very dated, and even the humor itself is hit and miss. Ben Stiller himself has admitted that if you don't like this movie, you're not going to get the humor. So it feels to a very niche demographic, the cinephile of like, look at how silly movies are. Robert Downey Jr. himself, Ben Stiller came to him and he's like, we want to do this in an Irish accent. He's like, I want to do Australian. That's easier. Can I do that instead? And they did. So he's even realizing that the concept of this character is bigger than the overall performance. Whereas with Louis Strauss, there's so many tendencies where he can be that fast talking person that he has to have that restraint. And you see it in like the little, like he does his little wince on the right side of his lip, and that just holds in those tendencies that he wants to make as an actor. And it's incredible. It's nothing like we've seen Robert Downey Jr. in before, because he's always just this like over the top, quick talking guy.
So your argument against my pick is that, oh, he's not funny. It's just in the script. So Robert Downey Jr.
It's not in his performance.
He's not
a
good actor. It's just the fucking script that Nolan gave him.
It's not.
So you make no fucking headway that way. I want to say as well, I don't think this is as much of a reach for RDJ as you think it is, as well as like I think just because it's a hard performance for someone who we have so little expectations of doesn't immediately make it so great. He's still kind of doing his Iron Man light. Like Iron Man is basically written as just RDJ kind of improvising, and you can see him leaning into those tendencies, especially like Iron Man 3 Civil War. There are shades of that in Oppenheimer, and I'm just taken out immediately. He is not having this like bravado or this like deep dive that we lose him. No, it's clearly fucking Robert Downey Jr. He does a good job. I could not even when he is like regular Kirk Lazarus, not Osiris. Fucking I had a thing right there. Lincoln Osiris. Beyond that, even when he's just Kirk Lazarus doing the Australian accent, I don't give a fuck about him changing which country it's from. When he's doing the Australian accent, I do not see Robert Downey Jr. I see this deep method actor who is so lost in his craft, and he is fucking incredible at it. There's beyond just being lost in the character. I think that you believe that he believes. Just because like you're saying like, oh, it's only playing to movie fans or whatever, doesn't make it a bad performance. I'm sorry that it's like a niche interest, doesn't undercut what he's doing in the movie. His actual commitment is fucking incredible.
The better performance should speak to a wider demographic. You bring up that like he does the same thing in Iron Man 3 and Civil War. I'll wait till you bring up like the scenes that are actually like side by side, because that's really easy to say. He like the physicality that he brings to every other role up until Tropic Thunder. We see that it's just it's you were saying like the script is part of this performance, but no, it's literally just
you
like
arguing
okay,
that. I'm saying that you're wrong.
No, but I'm saying that like it's not in his performance of the script. What he is saying is funny, but it's not how he says it is what making it funny. Straw's character is just so subdued when he has like the meeting with Oppenheimer and the rest of them, and you can see the gears turning in his head about how pissed he is that there was a spy in the New Mexico base and that the Soviets are essentially up to this. You see the 4D chess that he's playing that he doesn't get to play in every other roles, because people think that he is a typecast actor like they do in Tropic Thunder. They think that he's a one trick pony, and yeah. I'll let you keep going.
I'm gonna play your game for a little bit. Okay. If the script is what makes it funny, I'm going to read you verbatim a line from the script so you understand what he's doing. The line that Kirk Lazarus says, "Man, I don't drop character till I've done the DVD commentary." Was what I said funny? No, because I didn't act it. I didn't inhabit the character.
It's not funny when he says it either.
Yes, it fucking is.
It's not though.
Yes, it's his commitment. And then again, what you're arguing is like, oh, it's good in the script. That's not That's not.
It's
how
not good.
Performance works.
It's not good. It's not good in his performance. Knock knock. Who's there? Banana. Knock knock. Who's there? Orange. Orange. You glad didn't say banana? That's funny regardless.
If you want to use Oscar,
it takes.
He won an Oscar.
Yeah, he won.
He
couldn't win
Oscar nomination.
The nomination. No. The nomination for him in Tropic Thunder. That was the win for him. The win. Him getting Best Supporting Actor over like for Strauss is proving that he was not a typecast performer, is that he had this range, he had this subtlety that did not exist in any others. That is the much challenging performance and high risk, high reward.
Okay, we're going to start with Adelaide. Adelaide, 1 minute when you start talking.
What Brooklyn's trying to argue is that you want to take his performance with a caveat. That Robert Downey Jr. is not actually a good actor. He's only good when you think of him as, oh, he's in those fucking comic book movies that no one cares about. That somehow his performances in Bowfinger and Gothica and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Good Night Good Luck and the fucking Shaggy Dog remake are all the exact same performance, all the exact same fucking character when he approaches Kirk Lazarus. No, the physicality in that performance, there is a restriction to Lincoln Osiris that makes it so funny, that makes the character feel lived in. Just because he is coming out of MCU, cool, fucking Iron Man died, now he can be in a good movie. You're adding qualifiers to why you think the performance is good, not the actual scene in itself. It's like, oh, he holds it in his fucking mouth. The way that RDJ approaches Lincoln Osiris is tight and withheld, and he will lash out when he needs to, and that is perfectly analyzed. That is entirely different from who Kirk Lazarus is as a person in the movie, and then we see him in fucking Satan's Alley, and he's also great there and entirely different.
Don't say Satan's Alley to me. All right, Brooklyn, you have 1 minute.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. That's a core memory. Oh shit. Okay, I just need a second here. Iconic does not equal layered. When we're talking about even great physical performances, I could go to Chaplin that supersedes the physicality that he offers in Tropic Thunder. I know I've been going after the script, but I want to preface this to the judges. This is about the concept of the character. Robert Downey Jr.'s performance offers nothing extra to the character. This is what was presented, and he just kind of phoned it in and did his basic level thing. Tropic Thunder proves Downey can dominate a scene. Oppenheimer proves he can dominate a narrative. One is fireworks, brilliant and loud. The other is architecture, subtle, layered, and structurally essential to the film. He converts from being the supporting character to Oppenheimer, and then that third act is like, I'm going to bring him down, and he masters that revenge so well. We're talking about MCU. He transforms into what Jeff Bridges was in Iron Man in Oppenheimer, and nobody saw that coming, even Robert himself.
Oh my. All right.
I have more quotes I can read, but I can only say so many of them.
I know. I have oodles and oodles of notes.
Looks like Mark's riding. Kirk, where are you at? You good?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Great fight. Thought this was excellent. This is probably my favorite of the night. Both amazing movies that I love very dearly for very different reasons. I went with Brooklyn. I think it wasn't as clean of a sweep as the last one, like I thought. But I thought Brooklyn did an excellent job backing up his points with like saying like, okay, the character that he's playing in Tropic Thunder, that's mostly coming from the script and not much the performance. And I don't, and he kind of threw out some examples, or asked for some examples from Spence at times of like, okay, well, why is like what moments are you saying that from Iron Man 3 or from Endgame or whatever that is the same in Oppenheimer? And Spence couldn't really answer that question. I thought that was a good hit. I thought that Brooklyn did just a great job of kind of talking about taking that script of saying like he elevates the script in the performance and giving examples, not just saying it, and saying that Spence's was the opposite. So I went with Brooklyn again. Both are incredible. Is it Les Grossman? Incredible. Kirk.
Okay. Theme of the night. 2 more movies that are beloved that I think are pretty overrated. So again, we're level there. And I love the fact that it would have been really easy. 2 other fighters, we very likely could have gotten 2 MCU performances here. So I loved that they both went off the box and both went in very different directions of the characters. I assume that whoever went second, that was a strategy, or whoever picked second, I should say. But I think the fight was interesting. We got a little lost in the weeds towards the middle. Brooklyn started laying some stuff down that I was trying to kind of figure out where he was going with it. And I think during his closing, he really cleaned it up. So I did go with Brooklyn. The thing about the script, I was kind of on board with it, but I wasn't sure. But at the end, he, like I said, I think he really wound it up tight in the closing. Basically, I think the point was that there's nothing, when we think about RDJ and Tropic Thunder, we don't think about, oh, what a great performance. We thought, oh, RDJ's playing a black guy. And isn't that edgy? Isn't that so crazy that they let him do that? And that's where the thoughts of that movie usually go. Spence, like, I read a line, I can't, I didn't act it. Like, well, you can't act it. 2026, you act it out, you're going to get canceled. Of course you didn't act it out. But I think that's what the meat of that character and that performance is the fact that the edginess of it and just of what it was and what they let him do, where if they would have had any white guy do that, we probably would have had the same response. And where on the flip side, I think Brooklyn did a really good job of describing specifically what RDJ did with his character in Oppenheimer. So that's why I went with it.
Okay, Mark, do you agree with us, or are you on the opposite end of things?
Mark, what's your Venmo?
I'll say the contractually obligated thing of Brooklyn. I don't hate you, but
that's okay.
I don't care what Kirk says. You two pick the performances that should have been fought in this match. No debate there. And I feel like both of you brought in good arguments for it. I think ultimately I kind of separated from at least the shots, and I just couldn't buy Brooklyn's counter against Robert Downey Jr. and that it's either now that's like one note or the script's doing most of the work. I couldn't follow Brooklyn down that rabbit hole, and it's why I ultimately went with Spence.
Okay. All right. Well, nonetheless, we are tied up 2-2. This has been an exciting bout. We are moving into the bonus round. This is how it's going to work. I've randomized what category from Fanzone is going to show up. I am going to read the category. I am then going to repeat the category. Or, I'm sorry, I'm going to say the question, then I'm going to repeat the question. Once I've repeated the question for the second time, you may answer the question. Whoever answers first will be going first. Whoever answers second will be going second. You will each get 45 seconds followed by 30 seconds to argue your point and your pick. Any questions from the competitors? Okay. The category that was randomized was sci-fi fantasy. Question, which will be in the private chat. What is the best sci-fi fantasy film of the 2020s? What is the best sci-fi fantasy film of the 2020s?
Oh my god, this. Oh god.
Why are you so upset?
Because I feel like. Let's see if it happens.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Okay, now it can't happen. All right, never mind.
Oh, I see where you're going, Mark.
I don't.
I'm also confused.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
No.
I checked IMDb fantasy.
Yeah, I can vibe with that. That hits a little bit more. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're
For
going
sure.
across the Spider-Verse versus Everything Everywhere All at Once. Ooh, two movies I like. Okay. Adelaide, because you answered first, you are going first. You have 45 seconds on the clock whenever you are ready.
The true magic of Everything Everywhere All at Once is truly like within its title. It goes fucking insane and literally hits every shot that it takes. It balances these wildly disparate tones, and it's able to both make you cry from laughter and make you fucking weep over the family trauma that you both see within the film and kind of identify within yourself. And somehow, on top of all this, is able to balance incredible both practical and visual effects and like amazing action. Ki Kwan comes back from relative obscurity with an incredible performance, and he's doing fucking backflips and throwing punches and has a fucking sick ass fanny pack, as well as Michelle Yeoh. And somehow Jamie Lee Curtis won an Oscar, but you know what? She won an Oscar, so that's still pretty fucking good. It makes rocks and hot dogs sad. That's incredible.
Brooklyn, 45 seconds on the clock.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a more universally relatable story than Everything Everywhere All at Once. It also just handles the multiversal aspects better. It does an incredible job of giving each character its own artistic design to give it nuance without the series. It doesn't feel flat like everything else. It handles the character so well of Miles Morales, of Spider-Gwen, of Spider-Man 2029, as well as compiling in every other spider person and giving them just either a brief moment, as well as not having the universe feel too condensed or too rushed as whatnot. It's exciting, funny, heartwarming, still layered.
Spence, 30 seconds.
I want to point out, our movies have literally the exact same runtime, 140 minutes, and yet yours is literally only 2 fucking acts. Your movie is incomplete. You are sitting there waiting, and then it just fucking ends. That is not a high-quality movie. That's a teaser trailer for something else coming in fucking 4 years. Mine is able to have a multiversal story that doesn't rely on fan service or, hey, look, here's a fucking dinosaur, that's cool, and having a genuinely heartfelt and emotional core that makes you weep at the end, on top of, again, incredible action while also being really fucking funny. Raccoonie.
Brooklyn, 30 seconds.
if my movie is boring, then we're saying Lord of the Rings: Two Towers is boring for the exact same reason. Think about when you came out of the theater and how hyped you were to know that this is going to culminate in this immense battle of Beyond the Spider-Verse. While Everything Everywhere All at Once is certainly ambitious, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse isn't just a movie; it's a revolution in storytelling, animation style unlike anything we've seen, blending 2D concept aesthetics with 3D movement and the frame rate experimentation. Helping us feel the multiverse and Miles' journey in a live action chaos can't. Emotionally, Spider-Verse strikes a perfect balance.
Okay. That didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go. Oh, bye,
How dare you pick a movie in my top 100, you bastard.
We're back. Mark, you're kicking us off. What you got?
Two good picks. Like I said, did think for a second there we were going to get the two Dunes. And I'm like, okay. Thought that would have been funny. We try to argue part one and part two. But anyway, I think both made the argument that I think they had to make for both films. I think. And ultimately, I think Spence threw a solid punch kind of like in the first one of kind of it's the second movie. Yours doesn't really have a third act. I think Brooklyn actually thought of a better counter. I thought he would with the Two Towers argument of still being hyped for that other one. I think ultimately, though, I think Spence gave me a little bit more to chew on of everywhere, everything all at once, or everything, whatever how you say the title of that movie. But yeah, do feel bad. I wrote Spence's name five times. Sorry, Brooklyn.
And I wrote Brooklyn's name 4 times tonight. I went with Brooklyn. Mark kind of said why I did. I thought when Spence hit that, like, your movie's incomplete, I was like, Spence just locked this for me. I don't see how Brooklyn counters that, and he did really well. And so when I was kind of thinking about who I was going to vote for, I thought both did a great job of talking about why their movie is excellent, why it's exciting, why it's a cool multiversal story. One has great action, one has great character pieces and character styles, animation styles. One has the emotion. Like they really did a good job of upping their movies. And when I was thinking about the counters, Brooklyn had a really good counter against against Adelaide's big hit, which was the fact that the movie is incomplete, and Brooklyn countered it, and I thought he did it really well. And so I went with Brooklyn. Kirk, I apologize to you.
Oh, I hate this. We're keeping on the theme of the night.
Yeah. Right.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm okay with everything everywhere. It's all right. It's okay. Yeah, but I think they both argued it well. Both picked multiverse movies, which is interesting. I mean, I guess that's all you get in 2020 is multiverse movies. But so it would be hard not to pick one. But I think they both argued their movies well. They both gave me a lot of points as to why why they were good. I would have watched both these movies based on what they said. But I did ultimately go with Spence. I think Spence's opening was really strong, and I think the attacks on Spider-Verse were good enough. I know Brooklyn's counter was admirable to the length and the 2 acts, but I still think it was a really specific or very solid point from Spence, and I think that just the rest of their argument was really tough to overcome. So I ultimately was Spence.
All right, well, that means your winner is Adelaide. Spence. Moving on to the contender match. What a hell of a match. Great match. Mark, I want to get some closing thoughts from you first. You said I'm sorry, blah, 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 but you vote how you vote. You vote how you feel. And I thought both players did a great job. You clearly thought Adelaide did a great job and voted for Adelaide a lot. But I think overall it was really good, and I think you would agree. What were your thoughts kind of coming out of this one on how both the players did?
Listen, I didn't know, even though we're the same name 5 times, I still think Brooklyn did very well today. Definitely is cleaned up his game over the course of these last couple seasons, and I think and there was maybe at least one of them where I may have been focused on like the wrong thing, but it just is what it is. Make best decision at the time. But Adelaide, I feel like Adelaide came to play today. I think we're just kind of firing on all cylinders, and I think that we have seen like some solid success out of that, just kind of machine gun type of like points of just kind of throwing things out there and just kind of making it tough for your opponent to kind of to kind of kind of catch their breath, kind of catch their balance. Something that I think Jacoby has done really well like throughout like his time here, and something that, and yeah, I'm interested to see what Spence does next.
Yeah, absolutely. Kirk, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I was split on the standard round, and they were all 4 were hard. There I think there's maybe only one that I felt like real strong one way or the other that I needed to vote for. But other than that, I think they were all very close and really made me think and really debate in my own head as to which way to vote. So no, I think this is a great win for Spence. I think these are 2 players who have improved a lot over the last year. I think I'm seeing stuff from them now that I didn't see a year or so ago. So I'm really glad to see that. I'm really glad to see these guys putting the work in and just putting the effort in and just trying to make both their games better. Brooklyn, even on losing, I think this is one of the better fights I've seen him fight. And Spence, I know they've been trying to get over that hump. We've talked about it in the past. And I think we're finally starting to see that effort pay off for them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today at Fanzone Debate. We will see both these players back sooner than you'd think. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Mark and Kirk, for judging this one. Thank you to Brooklyn and Spence for playing. Thank you to the other people who helped make this thing run. The Knicks, the Bryans. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time with more Fanzone Debate. Until then, have a good night.
Hands, touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you, sweet Caroline.